Alright, hey folks, this is Chris Lucas of the ProtestantView.com. I'm known on YouTube as Liquid Smooth, and I also have another channel on YouTube called The Protestant View. And anyway, I want to talk about this whole USA threatening to boycott the Olympics in Russia. And I guess this is over Russia's stance against gay rights. Russia apparently doesn't want homosexuality in their country, and in the past I reported about, and this is a few years ago I reported on this, I said, Russia says no to gay parades because they won't allow gay parades in their country. And I think all these things are good, and I think all these things Russia actually has a right to do, because, rights come from God, not from man. That was the basis for the United States government, is that your rights do not come from men. And in fact, in our Constitution, it says we believe that we have these inalienable rights. And they're bestowed to us by our Creator. So we don't get our rights from a man's opinion or from the state saying something's good. We get our rights from if God says something's good or not. So, a country could say whatever they want, that doesn't make it right. And, the one thing I want people to remember, and I'm like going across, looking through all these headlines and things on YouTube, and I haven't really seen anyone address this topic and be pro-Russia. And so I want to be like one of the first people out there to say Russia is correct on doing what they do. And I think Russia is getting most of this flack, most of this attack from the United States, because the United States government is taken over by the Vatican. And the Vatican hates Russia, and the Vatican's a bunch of homosexual pedophiles. That's who runs the Vatican, is a bunch of homosexual pedophiles. And it's no surprise that, as our government in the United States has become completely Catholic ran, because you cannot find anyone who is not Roman Catholic or from a Jesuit school, whose parents aren't Roman Catholic, or doesn't go to a church that might be a Protestant church or evangelical church, but if you look at their leadership, it's bowing to the Pope. So in essence, they still bow to the Pope. They're still basically Catholics. Even though they might call their church something else, they're still basically Catholics because they're bowing to the Pope. That's because when you bow to someone, you're giving them leadership and authority over you. You're submitting to them, because it's not like the Pope bows back. They all get in line and walk up there one by one and start bowing to the Pope, all their leadership. And so you can't find anyone, no politician in the United States that I know of that's in government is Protestant. They're almost 100% Catholic, okay? Or tied in some way, connected back to the Catholic Church. So now we all know how gay the Vatican is. There's no question about it. They're gay. Okay, because I watched, Pope Benedict eyeballing some male dancer that came to the Vatican one time. I played it in a video, and he's just sitting there, and he looks like he's almost about ready to salivate, okay? And then that male dancer and him are staring each other in the eyes as he's taking off his vest. Now, why does he even have to take off his shirt, in the first place? But here he is taking off his vest and looking the Pope dead in the eye as he takes off his vest. Now, to me, that just seemed kind of gay, okay? And you already hear all these rumors anyway. You always hear about all these priests and stuff sleeping around with these little boys And I tell you what, when you're a good person and you hear about a man sleeping with a little boy, you don't want to take and protect this guy. You want to see this guy punished, okay? But instead, the Vatican, because see, they don't have any morals. They are corrupt. That's why they're like, oh, it's no big deal. Let's just move them somewhere else. Because see, in their minds, they're so corrupt and so wicked that they don't see that as that big of a deal. Oh, that's nothing. Let's just move them somewhere else. Oh, you're molesting a little boy. Let's just put you somewhere else. See, because they're so corrupt and so wicked. And now, so this is and see, here's one more thing. The Vatican has always hated Russia. If it wasn't for Russia, slavery might still be going on in the United States because the Vatican backed the South during the Civil War in America. Okay, and all these Catholic countries like Spain and Portugal, they were all looking to go help the South. Mexico was pretty Catholic and still is pretty Catholic. 90% of Mexico is Catholic. This is why they want amnesty, okay? Because all these Mexicans are Roman Catholic. So most of our illegal aliens are Mexican. So when amnesty happens, what do you think happens? The Catholic vote gets stronger. So anyway, you had the Vatican during the Civil War, and it was going to have Mexico and Spain and Portugal all ate them. Well, Russia steps in and says, hey, you know what? If you send your ships over, we're going to get involved too. And Russia, it was what at the time? And they're Orthodox Christians. Okay? So they were going to step in. And see, now let's think of a few years later. You got the Bolshevik Revolution. The Bolsheviks were communists, right? They go and killed the Tsar of Russia, whose Orthodox Christian was really promoting the Orthodox Church. Now you have these communists that were backed by the Vatican, that were funded secretly by the Vatican, and they go kill the Tsar. See, because what this was to take and damage the Orthodox Church, because the Tsar and Orthodoxy just went hand in hand in Russia. The Tsar made it a point that he wanted to take and help grow the Russian Orthodox Church. The Vatican hated this. They hated this with a passion. They already hated Russia for stepping in during the American Civil War. And the Vatican, by the way, was the one who was behind Abraham Lincoln's assassination. Because all 10 co-conspirators behind the assassination of Abraham Lincoln were Roman Catholic. And, and just to even clarify this point more, Jefferson Davis, the president of the South, and the Pope were writing letters to each other in support of each other. The Pope calling Jefferson Davis, your honorable president. Well, and see, some people go, well, the Vatican never officially recognized the South as a country. The Vatican never really officially backed the South. No, by simply calling him President Jefferson Davis, you are acknowledging publicly that you believe that the South is a country. And considering that at that time, Spain and Portugal, they were the leaders of the country were referred to as your Catholic Majesty. Okay, they were referred to as your Catholic Majesty. So when the Catholic Church is so big in those countries, and then the Pope recognizes the South, doesn't it sound apparent? And doesn't it sound logical that those countries will also recognize the South? So, in fact, you are giving them international recognition and support. So, the Vatican backed the South, and they killed Lincoln, and that's why we had laws that were put in place that to prevent things like Vatican embassy from being created. But these laws were removed once Reagan, who you see always hanging around Pope John Paul and stuff, Reagan had these laws removed. And folks, all this stuff about Russia and communists and things like that, you gotta remember the Vatican was the one who backed the Bolshevik Revolution in the first place. And now you have these so-called Russian defectors like Ion Pachepa, who I know is a Romanian, but he worked for the KGB. Okay, and Russia at the time had, as far as what I understand, Russia at the time had control over Romania. And so here you have this guy, Ion Pachepa. It's IONPACEPA, and Pachepa has recently worked with like WorldNet Daily, and they both came out with this book called Disinformation, which was co-written by Rychlak, Rychlak, and basically they promote all these like propaganda and false stories about how communists were actually behind certain things that we know today. When you really study the facts, the Vatican was behind it. And then they say, oh, Russians are working with the communists and the Russians are trying to do this and that. But in actuality, it's the Vatican. Just like the Vatican blames the Jews for so much, when the Vatican actually wrote the Protocols of Zion. But the Vatican likes to try to say the Jews wrote the Protocols of Zion. And now Ion Pachepa is trying to say, no, Russia wrote the Protocols of Zion. But the truth is, the Vatican wrote the Protocols of Zion. It was Jesuits, who are controlled by the Vatican, and they came up with the Protocols of Zion, and you can pretty much tell by just the way it's written if you read it carefully. And this author by the name of Leo Lehman, that's LeoLehman, I believe. No, M.A. Lehman, Lemann. Yeah, I think that's how it's spelled. But anyway, I have it on my site, theprotestantview.com. So if I can't remember the spelling off the top of my head, if that's right or not. But anyway, go to theprotestantview.com. You can find this article, and it's basically where Leo Lehman, he exposes how the Protocols of Zion was in fact written by the Vatican. It's a Vatican-inspired document, and you can tell just by reading it, and he helps to explain how you can tell this. But here you have Ion Pachepa, who says Russia wrote it. Another lie by him. And this Ion Pachepa, folks, there's someone who did a story about him where they go and interview him, and they're asking about these like KGB sex schools or sex spy schools, and he's like, well, and he kind of like downplays about saying like, well, I think he said something about like they didn't really have things like that, but they but in order to be a spy, like you had to have a really big cock and things like that. I mean, seriously, like he really said stuff like this in this interview. So I mean, and so here's WND promoting a guy that's just saying outrageous, ridiculous things and untrue things. And what is WorldNet Daily supposed to be? WorldNet Daily is supposed to be this right-wing, Republican, libertarian type online magazine. But here they're pushing lies of the Democrats. These are actually Democrat lies that they're pushing, because the Democrats are controlled by the Vatican. They've long since been controlled by the Vatican since at least in the 1850s. I would say that's when the Vatican kind of took full control of the Democrat Party, and it was the Democrats, that backed the South. It was a Democrat named Taney, who was the first Catholic elected to the Supreme Court, and this Catholic voted against or judged against Dred Scott in the Dred Scott case. This Dred Scott case is the one that took away rights to runaway slaves and things like that. You know, so you can already see this big connection forming. You know, the Republican Party used to be very much against all these sorts of things. But see, as the Vatican, as we've gotten more Catholic, as the Vatican has taken over the Republican Party as well, you don't see this as much. You don't even hear us talk about this stuff. I mean, why, you know, I mean, wouldn't that be great, you know, that you see all these black people out there and they're supporting the Democrat Party and you're like, hey, you know, don't you know, President Johnson, you know, Kennedy's vice president, called you guys a bunch of niggers? I mean, he did. And there's proof of it. Just go type it on the internet. Lyndon Johnson. And you can find it. He called him that. Okay? And he said, you know, when I pass the civil rights movement, we'll have those niggers voting Democrat for the next, 100 years, 200 years, something like that. So he's the one who said that. So, you know, the Democrat Party is full of racists. You got David Duke, who's like one of the biggest anti-Semites, and he's in the Democrat Party. They have been so, I mean, it's like they control the airwaves. I mean, when you look at our TV, it's Roman Catholic Sean Hannity, Laura Ingraham, who's another Roman Catholic, Bill O'Reilly, another Roman Catholic. I mean, you got nothing but Roman Catholics on our TV, mainly telling you all this stuff. Now, if they're not Roman Catholic, they're Jesuit schooled or they're connected to the Roman Catholic Church in some fashion. So when you hear the media going crazy about Russia and wanting to boycott its Olympics, well, that's because our media is ran by Roman Catholics that are led by a bunch of homosexuals in the Vatican. So of course they're not going to like Russia. They hated Russia anyway. Besides, you know, Russia being anti-gay, they hate Russia anyway just because their church doesn't control Russia. And Russia's Orthodox Church tries to prevent Vatican control. Well, if you want to prevent Vatican control of your country, ban homosexuality, because all those priests and the Vatican's homosexual. And it's like, when you ban homosexuality, you're basically saying, Vatican, you can't come into our country. Your faggot priests cannot be coming into our country. See, they can't even live in that country. Those faggot-ass priests cannot even live in Russia. Because they'll be like, man, I really want to rape a boy, but Russia will frickin', nope, you're not going to rape, we don't like homosexuality, plus you're raping a little boy, you're going to get it in Russia. See, in America, since we got faggot-ass Roman Catholics running our country, it's like, oh, you poor thing, you raped a boy, and now you're getting persecuted. Let's just move you over to a different parish. But in Russia, it's like, no, don't you dare do that. And now those priests are like, gosh, how can we even live in Russia? See, this is what it is. Those faggot-ass Roman Catholic priests, they're like, I can't even live around here. I can't do what I want to do. See, that's what this is really about. Those faggot Roman Catholic priests are probably sitting there complaining, calling out the Pope every day. Come on, Pope, you know how it is, man. We used to rape these little boys all the time. I can't get me a little boy, man. Let's get the U.S. to like boycott the Olympics. Anything. Come on, man. They are so wanting to like freaking just. And see, Russia said they're also doing this to protect the children. See, because they know. They know that they don't want these priests sitting there raping all these children. They don't want this. So Russia's doing a good thing. And people need to support them. You know, I mean, it's like they were our friends during the Civil War. They freed the slaves. And now I think we should support them back. They helped us. We should be helping them now. You know, they helped the Protestants back then, and I think we should support them now. They're trying to turn things around. They threw off communism. You see, well, you know, I think this is why communism really fell in Russia, because like the Orthodox people, the Orthodox Church, started waking people up, and they started realizing the Vatican actually backed the communist movement. So they were like, we don't want this now. So anyway, folks, that's all I had to say, and thank you for watching. And if anyone can get word out to Russia, I wish I could figure out some way to translate what I'm saying to Russia, just to tell them, hey, good job. Or even get this out to like a Russian studio. But anyway, thank you for watching.